Really what we want to talk about today is InfoPath and what next, essentially, should have been the title. Really, I think it's pretty clear that Microsoft has deemed InfoPath no longer an investment for themselves. So as a customer of InfoPath, what options do we have available, and where can K2 fit in to meet that need? Okay. I've just got a quick overview here. What we're going to try and do today is keep it to a minimum. I know everyone's time is important, and we've got lots on, so really I'm going to keep it as short as I can. I've only got a few slides to talk about the issue here. Eagle's going to go through a quick demo for us and show us how K2 can be used and used an alternative to InfoPath. And after that, we're going to look at what's next. So how can you trial K2? So after this webinar, where can you go to get some more information or have a touch and feel of K2? And of course, there's a questions and answers section, which you can submit questions to us, and we'll go through them as best we can. So let's get into it. What I wanted to start with is a link here to MSDN. This is one of the best statements I could really find around. Sorry, let me just bring my browser across. Windows 10 is fun. Okay, this link here is to MSDN, and it's migrate InfoPath forms to SharePoint 2013. And the first line here I just wanted to bring up very, very quickly and mention, if you're using InfoPath as the basis for creating forms in your apps, now is the time to start thinking about migrating your forms to other solutions. So really, I think this summarizes Microsoft's standpoint when it comes to InfoPath. It's no longer really a strategy worth investing time and money, and really, if we've got some solutions built in InfoPath, what do we do now? And they've got a few alternatives down here. Access applications, convert InfoPath to sandbox solutions, convert to the app model. Personally, I see that as developer, 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 and what Microsoft should have done is also included K2 down there, because K2 is definitely an alternative to InfoPath in SharePoint 2013, as you'll see in the demo as well. I can send that link around, but really, InfoPath in a nutshell, where are we today? So InfoPath 2013 is the last version Microsoft will release. Microsoft has no announced plans for InfoPath replacement. They flirted with a few ideas, and end of life, I think it was forms for SharePoint lists, which has been discontinued. They also came out and said SharePoint 2016 will support InfoPath browser forms, contrary to earlier statements. So there was a bit of confusion around InfoPath from Microsoft, but I think it's pretty clear from everything we can see that it's no longer available as a core reliable strategy for forms. The Forms service will be supported in Office 365 until at least the next major release of Office, so there's an end of life there as well. So what does this mean for you, maybe as a customer who has built a whole bunch of InfoPath forms or solutions? Well, it's inherently risky to continue to invest time and money in InfoPath for the future. It's really uncertainty and no clear forms direction from Microsoft. So it's hard to build an enterprise strategy for forms and applications when Microsoft, the vendor, doesn't actually know what they're doing in that space as well. So you've probably got a bit of a hole in your mobile strategy as well. InfoPath doesn't do so well in that space, as we all know. Costly code-only approach to integrating line of business systems and data, more of a problem with InfoPath in general. Painful end-of-life, inflexible forms, causing loads of maintenance and reworks. Reminds me of sort of Lotus Notes days. And maybe some sleepless nights because of the inability to keep up with the organization's ever-increasing applications demands. Okay, so how can K2 help? Well, K2 can help because K2 allows rapid creation, K2 smartphones without writing code. K2 really is not only a forms technology, but much, much more than that. You can integrate K2 smartphones quickly to workflows, line of business data, web services, either on-premise or in the cloud. It doesn't matter. K2, and remember that's without code as well. So K2 out of the box supports a lot of data sources that can be used to create solutions. K2 Smartphones fully supports mobile devices, online or offline. K2 has an offline app that can be used, so similar to Outlook, you can submit a form that you've built for offline access, and when you come back online, the app will, queue up that request and send it off when it's got connectivity again. K2 has no reliance on SharePoint or other applications, so really, to me, that speaks certainty around the future. K2 has its own workflow engine and forms engine, so K2 is not reliant on other applications, and we don't have to keep reacting to changes in strategy and technology from other vendors. Exceed expectations by producing complex forms fast through the use of reusable components. So one of the bugbears of InfoPath is if you need an InfoPath form change, you need to go and change the form, and away you go. K2 uses very, very reusable components at the data layer, but also at the view and the form layer. For example, you can create a customer object, and you can use that customer object across many solutions which might talk to that customer object. Views, similar situation, you can use views across many forms, many solutions, without needing to redesign them or recode them. You just drag and drop essentially onto a form, and they're available. K2 Smartphones can be accessed directly via SharePoint, CRM, or custom applications. Really, it speaks flexibility. K2 is flexible as an access mechanism via, you can hit a form directly, or you can actually have a K2 solution in SharePoint, for example, or anywhere else you might be able to embed an iframe, for example. What sets K2 apart? So a quick slide, mobile ready, design flexibility, so no code, drag and drop, visual tools for creating reusable workflows, business applications, compatibility, so existing security infrastructure, integrates with line of business systems. We've got web APIs or REST brokers and plenty of out-of-the-box connectors. And of course, speed of setup and use is configured, designed, and rolled out apps in days or weeks instead of months or even years for that matter. I wanted to keep this slide in just to show you that really K2 is a collection or a full business process application framework where you have forms, and forms is really only part of the picture, but really in the context of an InfoPath webinar, we've got InfoPath playing in the form space. K2 can certainly play in that space, but also facilitate your business processes, report on those business processes, and connect through to in the cloud data or on-premise data. It doesn't really matter due to our connectors. And serviceable, obviously, on desktop, mobile devices such as tablet and phones. All right, I'm going to switch over to Igor. Igor's going to give us a very quick demo on K2, and yeah, I'll let him take over.
And I probably should unmute myself. Can you hear me there? Okay, Ian, can you hear me fine?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, excellent. All right, thanks a lot, Ian. So before I get started, and just we're planning to show you a demo, and we don't want to take too much of your time today. But before I do start, I just want to get a sense of who's attending. So we're just going to run a quick poll, and if you won't mind, if you just respond to the poll within inside of the webinar, it'll just give me some indication of who I'm talking to. Okay, so you should see a poll over there. If you can just choose one of the items, that's great. I can see the results coming in. It's always a nice way to get everyone waking up again and participating. Okay, so we've got just waiting for one more person. Let's get 100. Oh, fantastic! 100% vote. I love it when we get 100%, and we know everybody's awake and listening. All right, so we've got a fairly, the results of that is we've got a kind of what we'd expect, some technical, some development, bit of a split between our technical but not developer and our developer sitting inside there. So with that in mind, I mean, I'm going to keep the demonstration somewhat light. I don't want to get too technical in it. And obviously, if there's things that are interesting to you and you find you'd like to know more, just obviously get in contact with us, and we can go as business centric as you need, or as more technical into the nuts and bolts. I can even show you how you can even go and build solutions inside of Office 365 and even add your own custom code to do advanced things if you need to as well. I had a chat with a guy with one of the Microsoft guys in Queensland the other day, and he said one of the resistance we get around people moving to Office 365 is they feel like a lot of the developers feel like they don't have any control, and they lose a lot of capabilities, and K2 can actually help bridge that as well. So get in contact to talk about being able to do much more advanced things in Office 365, and we can show you what we can do there as well. All right, so there's also a little Q&A window, a chat window. You can also, as we go along in the webinar, you can add some questions inside there, and we'll try to get those answered along route, as well as answering those at the end as well. So feel free to put questions as we go, and I'll try and monitor that as we go along. Okay, so to get started, first of all, K2 and SharePoint, and obviously if you've been using InfoPath, it's probably related to things that you're doing inside of SharePoint. I know there are some people that do use InfoPath without SharePoint, but it's very rare that we actually find that. So just to reiterate what Ian said, is that K2 can be completely independent. You can run K2 without SharePoint, completely without SharePoint, and build forms and applications. And if you've got SharePoint, you can use it as well. And we don't care whether you're using on-premise SharePoint or, let's say, Office 365. It makes no difference to the kind of capabilities that you have with K2. So to get this sort of started, what we've got here is I'm just going to show you how we can go in and create forms inside of our SharePoint environment. So what you're having a look at here, this is me. I've logged in into Office 365, into a SharePoint site inside there, and sitting inside here, we're just going to go and take a form and turn that a list inside of SharePoint and go and turn that into a form, so I can start showing you some of the technology. So first of all, what we do is I've got two lists that are sitting over here. I've got a customer expense. So in this scenario, I've got a couple list items, a title, a description, who the customer is that we're expensing something to, an amount, and a currency that we want to that expense might be in. So just almost like think of a little registry where we need to register expenses against customers. Now, what I'm going to do inside here is add a few little details. So we've got an amount and a currency, and what I'd like to know is an Australian amount inside here as well that we'd like to save. I'm just going to add another item inside here. Let's make that a currency, and I'll make this the AUD amount. Let's just add that. All right, so again, just standard SharePoint list, and if I click on new item, that's the form that we have sitting inside of SharePoint, where I can go and fill in some details, and you'll notice there's a currency with a couple items in here. This currency list is actually pointing to another SharePoint list called approved currencies. So that is a bit of a, this is one SharePoint list looking at details from another SharePoint list. So kind of things that you'd probably be quite familiar with that you can do inside of SharePoint. Now, in Office 365, there's not very much I can do with this SharePoint list. I can't really get too creative and be able to do more advanced things. So what I want to do is start off quite simple and just simply turn this into a K2 smart form so that I can be able to go and access that from within inside of SharePoint. So just to keep it nice and simple and show you from a simple approach to start off with, I'll go into that customer list. What I have to do inside of my Office 365 or my SharePoint environment is go and add the K2 app into this environment. So we don't install anything on your SharePoint environment. It's just a simple app that you add. And then what that allows you to do is then have this option. You see there's this little K2 application to be able to go and turn this list into a K2 application. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to open up a little, almost like a wizard. It's going to ask me a couple questions. The first is I might have already built an app. Maybe I built it in my development environment, and I want to go and deploy this now into this SharePoint site. I could go now deploy an app that I've already created into this environment, or I could create a new application from what I'm dealing with at the moment. So let's go and create a new application. So I'll click on that, and K2 asks me a few questions. Am I only interested in exposing the data in the SharePoint list? Well, yes, I do want to interact with the data. but I also want to generate some forms around it, and I can also generate some workflow and some reports. We'll leave those out for today, that we're focusing on the forms aspect of that. So if you want to know more about the other aspects, get in contact with us afterwards and we can take you through that as well. So I'm just simply going to click on OK. And now what Katie's going to go and do is it's going to go and generate a whole bunch of artifacts for us to be able to go and extend that form that's going to be placed inside of SharePoint. So it creates things called smart objects, which are the mechanism to access the data. It's going to create some views, and it's going to create some forms. All right, so that's taken place now. It's happened already. And let's go and have a look at what that looks like. So I'm just going to open in another tab. Let's go back to that customer expenses. If I now click on new item, what you are now looking at is no longer a SharePoint form. You're now looking at a K2 Smart form. So within under, I think that was about 20 seconds or so, we were able to just take a simple SharePoint list and automatically just generate a K2 Smart form out of those artifacts and replace the form in SharePoint with our K2 form. So what you're looking at here is the customer expense form now with the new customer expense and as well as the attachments. This is actually a form, one form with two views. So Katie has a view for this section and a view for this section. And we can go and now use those views on other forms. So if we've got another form somewhere else, maybe it's on a project management form, and on that form we also would like to capture customer expenses, I can now just take the view that we've got here and put it on that form as well. And therefore, while they're capturing one bit of information, they can capture other as well, using some of the reusable components that we've just generated. Now let's go and take this a little bit further. So one of the things that I'd like to do as well with this form is be able to go and expose it externally. So I'd like to have people interact with it. So as an example over here, I could go inside here and say, well, we've got a customer expense. Maybe what I'd had to do was I had to buy a mic for this customer. Had to get one for whatever reason. Now I've got to go and choose what customer that was, and I've got a database of a few customers. I've got a customer called Microsoft. I've got to go and say, well, the microphone was so much, and I bought it in US dollars. And now I've got to go online and try and figure out what was the currency conversion ratio to be able to get that $56 into US dollars. And I've got to go and fill in an amount, which I probably am going to get wrong, and save that away. So hitting save, what you'll see here is that's now saved that information into that SharePoint list. All right. So K2 Smart form replaced inside of SharePoint, but you're still interacting it as you would. Now let's go and make that a little bit more interesting. What I'd like to do first of all is be able to take that list, that form, and allow you guys to participate and be able to go and interact with it. So I can go back to my environment over here. There is my new customer expense form. What I'm just going to do in this particular case is I'm just going to go and save it as, and I'm just going to call this external. All right, so just saving it as external, and you'll see that there's an option here to clone the views, and I'm saying no. So I'm just creating a new form, but using the original artifacts, so that if I change one of these artifacts, all my forms will pick up that change. All right, so now I've created this new little form. Let's go and edit it. Right, so it opens up the K2 Designer where I can now go and edit this form, and let's go and make some modifications to it. First of all, I'm not interested in the attachments, so I'm going to remove that view. What I'm also going to do now is I'm just simply going to go and change the theme of this. I wanted to use one of my themes, so you could have a company branding inside here. These are just style sheets. So I'm going to use something called Lithium. I'm going to go to my advanced settings, and I'm going to switch on anonymous access on this form, as well as just give it a bit of a better width and allow it to have a maximum width of maybe 800 pixels. I don't really want it to stretch out too far across the screen as well. All right, so just a couple small details. The only other thing I'm going to do is just modify one of my rules on my save button so that when it saves, so by default, when somebody hits the save button, it's going to take them back to SharePoint when they hit save. And in this particular case, I'm going to go and change that slightly so that when you do save it, it just goes to an external save confirmation. You'll see all those rules that were already in there have been generated by K2 automatically, and then we can go and modify and extend them. So we try and do a lot for you, but then you can go in and then go and modify and make it your own and do what you need to do inside of that context. All right. So I'm simply going to hit finish now. Check this form in. And now I'm going to go and run it. And what you'll see now is that we've got now that form that we started off inside of SharePoint. We generated it inside of SharePoint. We could interact with it in SharePoint. But now I've taken this form and I've also made it available outside of SharePoint. So maybe I want to get other people involved. Not necessarily they have to go to that SharePoint list and that SharePoint library. You know, I just want to give them a form and let them fill in the form regardless of where that might be. So this is the form that we've just generated. What I'd like to do now is also let you guys have access to that form so that you can get a sense of what that form looks like. So I'm going to use a little tool that I've got, a little tiny URL generator that I created using the K2 Smart Forms technology. It's going to generate a little link to the form. And for those of you that are on the call, what you can do is just access that little tiny URL link. And I'm going to do a few things. I'm first of all just going to add it into the chat window so that you can all get it from the window over there. So you should see it in the chat window. And if you have got a mobile device and want to have a look at what this would look like on a mobile, just send me a text message to this number with the word add. So if you can do that, I'll then be able to send this form to your mobile device, and then you can have a look at what happens when you open it on a mobile versus what it looks like just in the normal desktop. So you'll notice I didn't do very much around, you know, making a separate form for mobile or anything like that. If you've got an iPhone, if you've got an Android or whatever you might have, just send me that text message and then I can get that device text over to your phone, so it's quite nice and easy to open up. There we go. So I can see a couple text messages coming in there. I'll send that form as soon as I just get a couple more. There we go. So it's building up. And for those of you that accessed it on the link, I'll also put the mobile number inside here in the chat window so we don't lose it. So there's a mobile number, and the word is add. If you just put that in there. Now, if you guys open up that form, fill it in, and then click on the Save button, what you'll actually notice is that inside of my SharePoint environment, I can already see some of the information coming inside there. So what you guys would have had to have done is pick the customer, you know, put in some amounts and a couple of details, sending there. So for those of you that did send me text messages, I'm going to send that all through to you now. So let's send that off. So that's going to loop. It's a little workflow process I've got that when I hit the send button, it loops for each of these items and sends a text message with that link into the text message. So you guys should see that in your mobile devices now. So if you would now click on that link from your mobile device and compare it to the form that I have on the screen at the moment, and you should notice a difference in the way that that form is rendering on your mobile device. And you can also fill one in, maybe put in a description, maybe in the description just let me know if you open this on a mobile device and save one of those forms off as well. Okay. Right, so let's have a quick look if anybody else has sent more details through here. There we go. So I can see a couple more of these coming through. Okay, so that's great. I mean, if you think about what we did there was very quickly, we needed a form. The businesses said we need a form quickly. We need to send our customers maybe to get a poll or some information from them, and we want that data inside of SharePoint. So we've just achieved that in a very simplistic way. Let's take that now just slightly further and say, well, what we'd like to do is I'm getting people typing in all kinds of customers here, and these conversion ratios in pounds. How can I be sure that we're getting an accurate AU dollar amount coming through there? So I'd like you to choose a customer, but one of my customers, as well as choosing the right currency and having the right currency converted. So let's go and enhance that form a little bit more. All right. So let me just go back into my designer. All right, let's go back into the little form that we were busy dealing with. I'm just going to check that out and edit it again. All right, so we got our form that we're looking at now, and I'd like to enhance this view that is currently on the form. So I'm going to go to the view and edit it. So we drill down now into the view, and now with inside of the view, I can check that out. What we're going to do now is make a couple of changes to that. First of all, I'd like you to choose a customer that is actually out of my customer database, right? So what I have is I actually got a CRM system, an on-premise Dynamics CRM system, and I'd like you to choose customers out of that system. So I'm going to go and change this control to a drop-down list box. You can see I've got lots of choices that sit inside here. So let's do a drop-down list box. And then I'm going to go and say, well, where does this drop-down list box get its data from? So I'm going to go to the data source and open that up. And now I can go and browse for other smart objects that are in my environment. So smart objects are the thing that helps us connect to backend systems. And once we have a smart object, using a smart object becomes non-technical. So I'm going to be using a smart object in this particular case here. And one of the smart objects I'm going to go and take advantage of is in my line of business systems. So I've got a number of systems that I got access to. I've got an SAP system. Here I've got a CRM system. Let me go into that one. And I've got some smart objects generated against my CRM accounts. So I want to bring through my CRM accounts. You'll see it's bring all the entities that are, the properties that are related. I want to put the account name inside of there. So now that drop down will bring me a list of my CRM accounts. So that's the first thing I want to do. The other thing I want to do is also show you how I could also call into other functionality. So one of the things I want to do is this AUD amount. I'm first going to make that read-only. I don't want you typing anything inside there. I want you, by selecting a currency, automatically working out what the conversion ratio actually is. So we're going to go in and add some rules onto that. So I'm going to go to the currency. Let's go and add a rule behind the currency. I'm going to say that when this currency has been changed, I can go and put a condition. And the condition that I'm going to put inside here is that you have entered an amount. So making sure, if the currency has changed and they've entered an amount, then what I want to happen is to execute another smart object. So smart objects can be access to data, but they can be also access to other pieces of functionality like web service calls or even a DLL. You could write your own .NET DLL that takes in some inputs, does whatever you want it to do from a developer point of view and returns a value. You can then wrap that up into a smart object and call that in from Office 365. And that's an example of what we're going to do now. So I'm going to go and call, again, a smart object. In this case, I've created a little category called my tools. And inside here, I've got a little currency converter. And I'm going to go and call my little currency converter. Now, this is just a smart object. When I'm using it, I don't care what sits behind it. But for your information, that is a smart object that has been built against a web service. So I'm going to call that. It's got a method called convert. When I go to configure it, it says, okay, well, this currency converter needs some inputs. It needs a from currency and a to and a bunch of details. So we're going to be converting to Australian dollars, and we're going to be converting from. Now I can go to all my controls on my form. There's the currency drop-down list box. You'll notice that is connected to the approved currencies. If you remember, that was the other SharePoint list that we've got. I can open that up, and now I can see all the metadata from that SharePoint list that's sitting inside here. And the only one that I actually need, and funny enough, they call it the column value. That's the field that I need inside here. What amount are we actually converting? So let's go and get the amount that's been typed in the text box. And for what date? Well, we could have put a date on the form, maybe allowing them to choose what date they incurred that cost. In this particular case, I'm just going to go get the current date and time and put that inside here as well. And you'll notice that while I'm doing this, I've actually got information about the current user and a number of things. If there was an error on the form, I can pick up those details and handle that. And I can pick up what the client is coming from, what browser they've used. There's lots of stuff that I can use here in the rules and how I do things. Anyway, so for the web service, we've just passed in those values. It's now going to return the converted value, which we're going to put into that read-only AUD text box. Okay, so we're just going to do that. And let's go and finish this. Let's go back to my form that we're busy having a look at. I'm going to check it in. Just going to check in all the views. And now if you guys have still got that link available, you can go now and just give the page a good refresh to get the latest version of it. and we should see a couple changes onto it. So if you don't mind, maybe give it a go. I probably should give it a test as well while I'm looking at it. So I'll put in another one to buy mobile. Now when I choose customer, I've got a list of customers. I can't make a mistake and type in the wrong customer. So I'm going to go and use one of maybe McDonald's in this case. I'm going to go and put in the amount of 80. And now when I go and say US dollars, it's going to go and do the proper conversion of 80 US dollars to Australian dollars. I hit save, and that's going to go and save that information into that list. So let's have a look if any of you guys have submitted any other ones inside there. There we go. Somebody submitted a new currency against one of my customers inside there as well. All right. There we go. Thanks for participating. It's lovely to come in here and see everyone participating and filling in information. It's always good to get normally about 75% of people, grab their mobiles and start to interact with the demo. So that's great. All right, so that's great. So you've seen now we've taken that form of ours just that little bit further. We've now brought in some line of business data, a list of customers. We've brought in some web service sort of interaction, some functionality to go and do some currency conversion for us. So that's also good. And then the other thing that makes our smart forms really cool is the reusability. So what I'd like to know is that when I choose a customer, I would like to know more details about that customer, not just their name. I'd like to know their name, what's their address, and a whole bunch of information that's sitting inside of my CRM system. So what we can do now is just go back to the form that we're busy working with, and I want to bring now in other views that I've used previously and enhance this form with functionality that I've done before. So any work that I've previously done becomes reusable. So in this particular case, I don't want to clutter the form too much, so I can add some tabs. So I could have a little tab here. I've got my customer expense. I could add another little tab here called customer details. All right. And then I'm going to go into my system and I'm going to look for my view around my CRM account detail summary. I'm going to bring that into the picture. So this is going to be able to load up and show me more information about that CRM account. But it's just sitting there on the form. I need to tell it how it works and when does it load and how does it actually load its information and what customer's information must be loaded. So I'm just going to go back to my form. Now I'm going to go to the view and I want it, whenever you choose a customer, I'd like the customer details to load. So I can simply go and add another rule here. Let's add a rule. Now I'm adding a rule, if you think about it, on the form level about the behavior of a view. And I'm going to say when I control on a view, so when my new customer expense customer drop-down list box has changed, so when that has changed, again I can do some conditions, so making sure first of all that the customer expenses customer drop-down has got a value. Then what I'm going to tell it to do is go to my CRM's view that I dragged on the screen and tell it just to initialize. And that view has got some parameters that can go into it, an account ID or an account name. And in this particular case, I'm going to go to my new customer, go to the customer, to my control, the customer drop-down. And inside here, I can go to the underlying data, and I can actually go and get the account ID directly from there and drop it in here. So just really one thing that I'm dragging and dropping across. So we'll finish that off. I'll save that. Let's check that in. So if you guys now go again and refresh that form once more, do that on your mobile device, do that on the browser if you've opened it on the browser, and you should see that there are now two tabs. So there's a customer details, the customer expense and the customer details. This time around, when you go and choose a customer, for example, if I go and choose Microsoft, and you go to the customer details, what you'll notice is the customer details have now been updated. Sorry, not updated, they've now been loaded. So you are now looking at that customer's information that is coming in from our backend system. So very quickly, we had a very simple form, and now we've actually enhanced it with even more capability of a view that we can reuse over and over again. So there might be lots of forms that have got information related to a customer, and this view would be useful to bring that in at that point in time as well. You can even click on the contacts and see a list of contacts that are existing inside of that customer. Okay, all right, so again, once again, just have a look if we're still getting more people interacting inside here, so that's fantastic. I love the interactivity. Okay, the other thing that you can also do is this approved currencies. So I've got those 3 lists of approved currencies that are going inside here. So if I click on new item, this is actually a form that I've already turned into a K2 Smart form previously. So I go to my approved currencies, and let's say I want to add a new currency. Now there's hundreds of currencies out on the internet, and I don't want to have to, now I've got to go and look them up and look at what the, is it AUD, is it GPP, you know, what is the amount. So what I've done in this particular one is a very simple example, but I'm using a K2 autocomplete control to a web service that brings me a list of currencies. So for example, if I type in Zim, you can see there, it's brought me my Zimbabwe dollars, and I can save that now into one of the list of approved currencies. So you can see there's Zimbabwe dollars, and if you guys refresh your form again, so let's give that a refresh, you'll see the currencies. If I go down, now we've got Zimbabwe dollars. Just out of interest, I'd love to know what 90 Zimbabwe dollars would be in not even a dollar. So it sort of gives you a sense of the sort of things that you can do inside here. All right, so I'm going to leave that form with you. You can have a little play with it. I'll leave this form live for a couple of days. If you want to show anybody else and just have a play with it, you're more than welcome to. The next thing that we want to do is just introduce you to another environment that we'll make available to you after this webinar, and that is the K2 immersion environment. So let me open it up and show you what it looks like. So let's go open up a window. Let me log in. Okay, so this is the K2 immersion environment. This is a 100% demonstration environment purely built on K2 Smart Forms. So what you're looking at over here, this is a K2 Smart Form, just like the one I built for you that we started off inside of SharePoint, except this one is really quite independent. It's sitting on its own. You can see it's got a bit of styling, a bit of a background color to it, and it's got all kinds of things that you can go and have a look at, you know, some reporting that we're exposing up inside of this environment. There's a number of demos that are inside here. For example, I've got a travel request demo that you can go and have a look at. And inside of this demonstration over here, you can see it's got things where, you know, I've opened up a form for travel request. It's automatically populated my details. It's bringing a list of cost centers from Office 365. It's bringing, if I go to the account code over here and I type in Microsoft again over here, a little icon appears. When I click on that, you'll see that's that same view that we used a few minutes ago in Office 365 for that demo. It's exactly the same view that I'm using inside of this environment. So it's just showing you the reuse of how you can start to put those little pieces together. This demo has also got some interesting things where you can go and add flights. And if you go and add a flight inside of this example, it's showing you how a form can have a sub-form within inside of it. Then you can go and do things where you can say, well, I'm going to fly from Sydney to Brisbane. I need to fly on, let's say I'm going to fly on Tuesday, or Monday's a public holiday, so let's have a look if there's any flights. And I click on the Get Live Prices, and what you'll see this is now doing is it's opening another little sub-form, and it's bringing through all the flights from Sydney to Brisbane on Monday. And I can see, look at the prices because of the public holiday. Isn't that insane? So this is, again, you know, here's a K2 Smart form for travel, and yet I'm bringing in some of the CRM data for people to help, you know, choose what customer they're going to, as well as bringing information from third-party systems like Skyscanners in this case to bring me that flight information. So again, just a nice environment for you to have a play in and get a sense for the kind of things that you can do inside of K2. There's videos inside here. A lot of the demos have a video, as well as you can go and run through them. You can also enroll other people from your company into this environment, and then you can submit travel requests to them or expense claims and really get quite busy and have some fun inside of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to send you the link to that. I'll send it through now in the window. As it has been sent already. Okay, fantastic. So let me take that link. Let's copy it over here. It's been, I understand it's been sent on in the chat window as well as I'm going to send it through to anybody that wants to receive it via text message. So if you want to send me the your mobile number again, I can send that, if you again, to that mobile number with the word add. I can also have this link sent to your mobile device, and you can enroll through your mobile device as well. So it's up to you, whichever mechanism you'd like to be able to access it via. I think, let me just check on the agenda. I kind of get carried away a little bit. So we've spoken about the experience. We spoke a little bit about immersion experience. If you've got any other questions, you can contact Emma at k2.com, and she'll be able to send it over to the right person. We can get back at you with any of those questions. I'm just having a look if there's been any questions in the questions log. Is there any? Okay, no problem. What I'll do as well is, if anyone has any questions now, you're welcome to unmute yourself and just fire away if you've got any questions. Otherwise, I'm not too sure. I was muted there for a moment, so I'm not too sure how far. I was saying if you'd like to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to ask any questions, or otherwise get in contact with us afterwards, and we're more than happy to help. Let me. I can see a few of you have sent your mobile numbers, so let me send that form to those to that as well. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So what you'll also notice inside of the environment as you're going through the self-enrollment. So you're going to get a wizard that opens up. You can go through the wizard and fill in your details. So for example, if I fill in mine over here, fill in your information and try to be accurate here because your mobile number and your details will be used within inside of the demonstration. So as you approve something, you're going to get text notifications letting you know what's happened, and it's a nice way of interacting. On the next page, there's also a place where you can upload a logo. So if you do upload a logo, maybe your company logo, when you log into the immersion environment, that you will see your logo at the top of the screen as well. So it's a nice way just to make it a little bit more personalized, and it gives you a nice way if you want to go and demonstrate it inside of your organization to make it a little bit more personalized from that point of view as well. Okay, so thanks for attending. I do have one question inside here. Defining forms against existing XML schemas. So no, well, yes and no, actually, to that question. So what you can do is you can use the XML as a source. So if you've got an XML schema, or just the XML itself, you can turn that into a smart object and you can build a form against that. But in most cases, you probably want to get out of the XML and build it using the K2 smart objects. A lot of companies have asked us, do we have an InfoPath 2K2 tool? We don't, but we do have a knowledge base article that helps you about how you can architect one of your K2 InfoPath forms into K2 coming from an InfoPath background. So we know inside of InfoPath you've also got concepts as views and XML and data connectors, and what this document does is it takes that and helps you transition your understanding of how InfoPath works into how K2 works so that you can seamlessly move across into that environment. Okay, fantastic. And I can see some of the requests are coming through, and we're busy approving those so that you should have access shortly. So another question I've got here is, love to have more sessions like this. That's the plan. I actually thought we'd do this in 30 minutes, and that's the plan, is to keep these down to 30 minutes. I always end up getting a little bit overexcited and showing a bit more, but we'll definitely be doing more and more sessions like this as well. Also, if you're on LinkedIn, look for me on LinkedIn. So it's Igor Jurusevich at K2, as in LinkedIn. Find my LinkedIn profile, and what I'm also doing inside there is I've also been uploading videos and blogs around various different things. I published one a couple of weeks ago that shows you a nice scenario between having Office 365 for maybe your contractors or your third-party people that interact in Office 365, and having an on-premise SharePoint environment, and how you can have a K2 form and process that spans across the two. and I've got that in a video series that goes into quite a bit of detail that shows a nice build demonstration experience, and then it goes into the actual build experience of that as well, and you can go and have a look at that as well. All right, so if there's no other questions, thank you very much for your time today and attending this webinar. Obviously, we haven't shown you everything. There's a lot more, and there's a lot more detail that we can go into. And if you'd like to go, get in contact with us, and we can help you out. Thank you very much.